Good morning.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. We are asking everybody to mute themselves as we're recording. Today is Sunday, January 5th, 2025, 1/5/25. And our topic today is stretching into possibility.
I like that.
We're also reviewing the basic concepts of our teaching, as we historically do the first month of the year. And the first chapter of our Science of Mind textbook states that we are all one with God. And so that's a concept we'll be touching on also. But as the first of the year, we are excited by the topic stretching into possibility or possibilities, because that's what excites us. That's what gets our juices flowing. That's what that's that's because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is creating something new. And so Bob and I find that we have a new project in mind, and it just energizes us, because I really do think we're supposed to be creating. And when we end up just doing repetitions of the same old, life gets a little dull. So it's good to have a challenge for something new because we are creators. We are um, doing just what our creator does. We create because we are individualizations of it. And so I recommend it, whether it's a new hobby, a new friend, a new activity, find something new to stretch in to the possibility of that.
I'm reminded when you say that stretches, one of the first things I watch when a cat or a dog gets up from the sleep is they stretch. They do a big stretch, and they're stretching into the level of activity that they're going to engage in. They're getting warmed up. Lately, in the last 2 weeks, I've been working on the interior of a book that one of our members has she's written beautiful haiku for, and I've been working creating the artwork for it. And selecting all of the art and then framing all of the art and then getting it ready for publishing is just hours and hours and hours of work. And, I think I probably put a good 30, 40 hours into this book. And the
And
reason
it's work sitting, concentrating.
focusing, correcting the mistakes that I make, and then making more mistakes that I need to do more corrections for. I'm sharing that with you, not as a complaint, but that's the process of creating. Now, why I'm also sharing that is that I labor over it, I work on it. It's hard. There's a lot of thinking, and I hate making mistakes, and I make more than enough of them. At the end of the day, when I look at what I've created, I am absolutely in awe.
And invigorated.
I'm invigorated and in awe of what we actually have, and I say we, the writer and myself have created is beautiful. And so I think what happens sometimes is when there's labor involved, we give more attention to the labor and think we shouldn't have to have that labor, when in fact the labor is part of the stretching into. I've learned a lot more now about publishing than I ever wanted to learn, and it's good. And in fact, I had somebody at work the other day ask me about publishing a book, and I spent about 10 minutes with them explaining the things they had to do. And they said, "How did you learn all of that?" And I said, not easily, and not even totally voluntarily, but
One mistake at a time.
right, yeah. But the beauty of it is that when we stretch into a new adventure, we have to already know, one, that it's doable, even if we don't know how to do it, and two, we'll learn along the way. And part of the adventure, part of the excitement is the learning. And as we learn, we grow, and as we grow, we then become better creators. So, and I have to say that this is the seventh volume of this series of books we're doing. We're going to 12 of them. Every one of them has been a lesson in an adventure, in learning. And I have to say, at the end of the day, I'm better off for it, even though there are moments when I'm not saying that.
Of agony.
You're right.
There's the agony and the ecstasy.
Yeah, right.
Well, I want to share a quote about this idea of us being one with God, because I have had students who have found that impossible to imagine. you know, that you and I are one. How can that be? Because you and I are separate and we're different. How can we be one? And it takes an understanding to get the idea that energetically are one. Physically, we're not one, but energetically we are one. In our souls, we are one. In our essence. This is what Roger Teal said. He was a minister in
Denver, the Mile High
Denver,
Church.
Colorado, the Mile High Church. And his book is called This Life is Joy. His quote says, all life forms are the one life. Capitalized. When it's capitalized, it's referring to God. And then he says, God life, expressing as that being. The variety and multiplicity of creation is joined at the deepest level in an internal, indestructible oneness. And so when we look at that word eternal, we know that's regarding time, but it also includes everything. I started thinking about, well, we used to think that our galaxy was huger than we could imagine going beyond. That's what people see when they are able to sleep out under the night stars. They are looking at our galaxy. It is
Right.
huge.
Huger?
I didn't say huger.
Yes, you did.
Did I? Not huger.
Okay. Ooh, that was a
You
close
sure that's not your ears? Okay. But at any rate, we now know when I went to California, when we went to California, in 1999, the latest information was that we had 50 billion galaxies. No, I think it was 50 million. 50 million galaxies. And I was in awe of that.
That's the
When
most
we
biggest
think,
number I can think of.
especially with how big our own Milky Way is,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
50 million of those. How big can the universe really be? Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying that there are 100 billion galaxies because we have telescopes in space that can see that many,
Mhm.
and mathematicians project. But that is truly astounding. It's like I can't wrap my head around 100 billion galaxies, and that's all God? Well, it has to be. It has to be if it's all one. So it's really, truly remarkable and amazing. And what a tiny speck of creation we are. And yet we are made, just like our Creator, we are made to create our life. And that's when we're truly happiest. Founders of very successful businesses tell us that their most exciting time in life was the building,
Mhm.
not the having achieved it. That's sort of a letdown. It's like, okay, next. Because it's the building that is so invigorating.
We watched not a National Geographic, we watched a Netflix special on uh, leopards leopards, and the three, I think, or four people spent 2.5 years living in Africa with the leopards, following them around,
Videotaping
videotaping and getting to know them and watching them produce and reproduce and
families.
create and live and I mean, they went through a lot of separation from family. They went through a lot of sacrifice to be able to do this. And they talk at the end about it being such a gratifying experience that it was an extraordinary thing that they will have with them for the rest of their lives, even though it was also a lot of work. It was a real labor, and they weren't all good moments, So it's interesting the adventure that we're in. It's the adventure that's important.
I think it would be hard to even sit as they do in their trucks with their cameras at the ready all day. I don't even know that they can get out and stretch.
Yeah.
So it's hard work. But they end up loving the animals and really being grown by the
Well, that brings
experience.
up something else too. The adventure, if you think about it, promotes a kind of intimacy with the experience.
Yes.
If you think about when you start to really, really, really work on something with your whole heart and soul, you're actually exploring the inner depths and edges and corners of something that up until that very moment you may not had never have seen. And so this adventure that we're in is an invitation for intimacy with creation.
Exactly. And I want to explore this idea that we are all one, because to our human eyes, it sure doesn't look that way. We don't feel one with one another. We might, as family, as a married couple or a family, and say, okay, this is our family unit. And these people we can trust, sort of, maybe. But they're safe, I think. Everybody else is questionable. You know, it could be us against them and them against us. So we are not sure about other people. And this creates a lot of conflict because
Sure does.
we don't feel one with them. We don't feel we can trust them. And if we do, we might extend it to our extended family, but if that doesn't even work. You know, because extended families have schisms and differences, but they're closer than anybody else. And then it can become my tribe against your tribe, you know. But it's still separation and differences. Not to mention, you know, countries. If we really believed we were all one, we would never have a war. War would be unthinkable. Why would you kill part of you? You know, which is what other people and other countries are.
You know, but what's also true is there was a book some years ago, I think by Lang, Dr. Lang, called The Divided Self. And he talks about how we actually have a disowned self, that we're not even one with ourselves, let alone one with other
Mm.
people. We package the parts of ourselves that we don't approve of or appreciate and hide them and hold them in great disdain. And one of the reasons for people having often such low self-esteem is because they're so divided in their own self. So it doesn't surprise me that when we're divided, we divide people and that we divide the world around us. But what's really important is to recognize the need to be one with yourself and then to recognize the oneness with all else in life as well.
I think, first of all, oneness with God.
Yeah,
You know, when you recognize you're really a part of God, a
that's,
self-expression of
that's,
God,
that's so important.
your value goes up
God
so
in me
greatly.
as me working through me
Is me, yes.
is me. Yeah, and what we often think is God out there, me in here, and I wish there were more God near closer by. And
Right.
we ask the God on the outside to help us on the inside, not
Yeah.
realizing that the God,
And make us better, please make
yeah,
us better people.
and the God that we're talking about is an inside God.
Yeah.
You know, there's a relationship between the TV or the monitor that you're using and the transmitter, and neither one can exist and have any value without the other. And so the transmitter is transmitting, but there needs to be a receiver. The receiver has to be part of the transmitter. They're in relationship. They're one. They don't look like it because they're maybe in two different locations, but in fact, one without the other means that there's nothing.
Yeah.
And so if God is a transmission from a higher place or a greater place, and we're the receiver, then we are in a relationship that is inseparable, no matter what the distance. And that's a really, really important piece for us to recognize that God is in me.
I want to take that further. We were talking about animals. We view ourselves as separate from although we know we're an animal. And yet, oh no, they're inferior to us, and they don't think like us, and they don't have feelings. I think that's the stupidest thing scientists ever decided, that animals have no feelings. Therefore, we can use them to experiment on, you know, and maim and kill them, because they have no feelings. It's not true. Anybody who has ever had a pet knows that animals have feelings. We were just watching a tiger being petted and was purring and making ooh sounds, you know, ah sounds for a tiger.
I won't ever
And
forget the picture
or
of
was he a lion?
a lion. It
It
was
was
a
a
lion,
lion, yeah.
a cow that was separated from her baby, and she was crying. She had real tears.
Sure. Oh, wow.
And they went and got the baby back and brought the baby back to her. They
Mm.
couldn't separate them. So yeah, we underestimate our interconnectedness. We underestimate our oneness. And you know, when animals know how we are feeling because they can smell and hear things we can't smell or hear, that's part of who we are as well. The fragrance that allows the hormones to be recognized by another human being are part of us.
So I want to take this, we are another step forward to our being one with the earth. I know the earth is, I believe the earth is a living being, and we treat it like it's a dead rock. And there's nothing dead about the earth. It is constantly moving and changing, and um, with earth, fire, and ice, there's a lot going on there, and it's a living planet. And yet we treat it like it's disposable, and
Mhm.
it's not disposable. So if we could just get this oneness, that we're one with our Creator, our purpose is to create, and we're here to love and enhance all the other aspects of life. It's interesting to me that when we contemplate going out into the universe and space, and that comes from our natural fear and our need to survive, I guess. But we all always imagine beings that want to harm us. I guess it's because our nature to harm the other and fear the other that we project that they do, and yet we've never had any indication that that's true, but we still do it. So we are evolving. I do believe we're evolving into this understanding that we're part of the divine and that we are divine in nature, and we can therefore then be loving and uplifting to all life, to all of God's creatures, to all God's creations, and not just be things for us to utilize. When people think about going to the moon, they think about the minerals they could excavate. I wonder how the moon feels about that, you know. Um, so where did we want to go next?
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking about that of a puzzle. And a puzzle, if you look at a puzzle box, it's filled with 1,000 pieces or 2,000 pieces. And if you were to ask each piece what it was a part of, it would say, I'm an individual piece. I'm an individual something. And when you assemble the entire puzzle, you realize there is only one. That each piece is designed to interlock with another piece to create a one. And so the one that is the piece is also the one that is the puzzle. And we all have that.
So I'll have some interesting quotes from ancient religions. And Tao is one of the ancients, most ancient. It's Chinese, um, and it means the way. Taoism is the way. And the quote from Lao Tzu, who is the writer, ancient writer, says, if you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, amused, kind hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king.
It's nice.
Yes, it's beautiful. And it's part of what happens when we realize we're all one, rather than it's me against you, me and the other. You can, when you see, just like you do when you see children make mistakes, and their mistakes might be cruel to other children or whatnot, you recognize that it's not their best choice, and you turn to educate them, but you don't hate them, you don't hurt them, hopefully, and so it is with other grown adults who do not know better. If we could treat them tolerably and understand that they also are uh, growing into understanding who they are, and then we have a better chance
Mhm.
of us all getting along.
Indeed.
And where I fall into it is with politics. We do this us against them, our party against the other party.
Well, the other ones are wrong.
Because they're different, they're wrong.
That's right.
And so I am trying to let that go and ease that, because how do I know?
Mhm.
How do I know what's best for our
Well,
country?
and
I have my opinions.
that takes me back to something I learned a long, long time ago that I've shared before, and that Albert Ellis said, we're always doing the best we can, given what we know and what we believe. And therein lies the problem. Often what we know is crazy stuff. And what we believe is
It's
even
even
crazier.
crazier.
Yeah, it's like, wow. So if you know the world is flat and you believe the world is flat, then everyone who says it's round is crazy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so what we're looking at is not
Us against them.
us against them. We're looking at core beliefs that in many cases are, well, in all cases, we're going to live up to because it's what we believe. It doesn't make us bad. It doesn't even make us wrong. But it may not be true. We're right to live according to our beliefs, but in a perfect world, we would question those beliefs and open ourselves to the possibility of a bigger world than we have in mind. The problem with that is that it's scary to think that you don't have all the answers. Yeah.
And our beliefs can change. I believe our beliefs in hell, which was an idea that was really massaged by the first Christians, the Catholics. Uh, we're losing our. I think as a people, we're losing our belief in hell. I think it's generally still accepted, but not like it used to be. I remember as a teenager and as a Catholic, let me count the sins, and I worried about which ones were venial sins, those are minor sins, or mortal sins. The mortal sins, you would go to hell if you didn't get to confession first, and that could be something like missing church on Sunday,
Yeah.
eating meat on Friday. I mean, they were pretty what we would think today pretty minimal things.
And the purpose of that?
Worried about hell. Oh.
Well, I think that's important. The purpose of that teaching was to get people to obey, and no
Exactly.
matter how bad their lives were, to know that
And attend church on
and
Sunday.
if they did everything they were supposed to do, there would be a payoff at the other on the other side.
All right.
When life was really, really difficult and people were struggling, the only consolation was if they struggled in the right way, they would end up having an afterlife that was blessed and fine. I think the problem we have now is we have so much more, many cultures have so much more that it's difficult to conceive of life as being that bad when it's that good. And so the idea of hell is less worrisome, but it's also not being promoted like it used to be. But
But the thing about the fish is that that's no longer a sin. Now the
yeah,
Pope changed that.
yeah, fish are
And
not happy with that.
and it started years, centuries ago with a Pope who was trying to help the fishermen sell their fish. And that's what really started it. So, that's
Yeah,
how I lost my faith.
yeah.
It's like
The human
all that worrying about on Friday nights when we were driving around the drive-throughs, and seeing who was at the hamburger joints, we had to have a fish burger. all that, all that self-denial. But at any rate, the self-denial was not bad. What was bad was the guilt or the impending fear.
Well, and it divides us within ourselves. And it's that internal division that is haunting us. That we dislike things that other people reflect the parts of ourselves that we don't approve of. And so again, we move back to acceptance of the self, acceptance of the oneness that we are one, and then that we are one with all that is creation. We're intimately connected with it.
But when God is in here, it really helps you think about what you want to experience and be, do, and have in life, because you think, what would God want to create? And it's all good, um, so that's endless possibilities. Stretch into possibilities with what would excite you, and what would be fun to be, do, or have.
I love it.
So with that, I think we'll do a screen share and share ways that you can support our ministry if you care to, and we know that many of you do, and do so automatically. Um, but if you don't, you can go to our website, which is cslpalmbeaches.org, and click on ways to donate, and that will show you how. And so, for those of you who are here watching with us now, let's say together this affirmation. We are affirming that this is the truth for us. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is. And I just want to add that we do recommend that a tithe is giving to the source of your inspiration. And it's very important for your prosperity. It's not the same as charity. Charity is giving to those in need. Don't we want to?
End recording now. We're gonna end the recording here.
Oops, I almost ended the